Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Right, the government's childhood obesity plan has finally been published and has attracted quite a lot of criticism, actually. Here's what is in the plan and here's what isn't. A new sugar tax on soft drinks is in. It will add 8p to a 68p can of Coke, for example. The plan is going to encourage children to do an hour's exercise a day. The food industry will be challenged to cut sugar in food and drink by 20% over the next 4 years, but that target is voluntary. There are no restrictions on TV advertising of unhealthy foods before the 9 p.m. watershed. And there is no ban on multi-buy promotions like buy one get one free in supermarkets. Well, critics say with a third of children overweight, it's really a missed opportunity to force food and drink firms to reduce sugar in their products. It's reported that the Prime Minister Theresa May decided not to burden the industry at a time of economic uncertainty. Here to react, Ian Twin from the advertising body ISBA. He's pleased the government hasn't caved in to health lobbyists. Jenny Rossborough is a registered nutritionist and campaign manager with Action on Sugar and feels disappointed with the strategy, as does Malcolm Clark, the coordinator of the Children's Food Campaign, and parents Julie Crefield, who's a mum of one, and Emily Leary, who has 2 children, aged 4 and 8, are here to react as well. Welcome all of you. Thank you very much. Let's start with parents. What do you think, Julie?
I think it's really difficult as a parent to to have all of this kind of shame placed on you when it comes to what your children are eating. But ultimately, you are responsible while they're at that small age. You can control it. But I think what's really interesting is, I run a company that's all about sport and women. And I think if we empower women to kind of make better choices for themselves, then their children will follow.
Right. Emily, do you think the government should have done more? Do you think this plan is enough? Do you think they should have forced food and drink firms
I think it seems a little
sugar?
bit disappointing, really. It doesn't say very much at all. There's a lot of talk about sugar, but sugar isn't the only issue. Too many calories is really the issue. And I think it was sad when I read the report that went out. There was a footnote about education, and I'd really like to see, as Julie said, kind of more about educating parents and educating children so that they understand what a healthy diet looks like.
Malcolm Clark, what do you think?
Well, I think children and taxpayers should actually be really disappointed and feel let down at this government obesity plan. So it's a year delayed. All you've got is 13 pages of recycled commitments and the same failed voluntary approaches for industry. It's not good enough at all. Say that absence on marketing and promotions. It was in there even in a leaked draft a month ago. What's caused that to go? And I have to say, why is the advertising industry so scared of even a public consultation on further restrictions on marketing and advertising, which was what was in that original leaked document?
Ian Twin, you're from the advertising body, the ISBA. You must be delighted.
Well, I think it's the right approach. I think it's a great opportunity for business and campaigners and government to work together. The idea of getting parents and children to understand what a healthy diet is, what a healthy lifestyle is much more important than naming and shaming people for the food they eat. I think we can go a long way now in working with government. We can use the power of advertising to reinforce very positive messages about getting people to understand if they're eating too much, if they're not exercising.
There's no incentive, though, is there, in this plan for people who make food and drink, people who advertise their products which contain sugar, to reduce the sugar content?
Well, I think there is, and I think because
which bit of the plan?
I think that the businesses will realise that if they don't act, and if we don't see some results over the next 5 years on obesity, then the government will probably sort of have to say, then there will have to be legislation and regulation. But in the meantime, it's not right to say that we're not consulting about advertising. We're doing exactly that. We've been doing it for the last few months. There will be tough new rules on HFSS food advertising.
What does that mean, sorry?
It means foods that are high in fat, sugar and salt. There's a nutrition profiling test. It already applies to television.
So go on, what tough new thing is coming in?
They will not be able to directly advertise to children in the print media, in outdoor media.
What about
and
online? What about...
And online as well, it is covered. So,
what about TV?
TV is already covered by it.
And who's actually defining directly advertising to children? I say, unfortunately, here we had a perfect opportunity for the government to actually say, this is what this means. This is how we, the advertising industry should, should define these things. Unfortunately, it's left to the advertising industry and the food and drink industry to set the terms of their own rules. They then regulate their own rules. And unfortunately, we know from the experience of huge amounts of marketing that children are bombarded with for less healthy food and drink, that this simply at the moment isn't work. The industry says we will do something. What the public health has defined, government's own public health advisors have said, actually, this is what's needed. There are other measures, proper recommendations, both on a 9 p.m. watershed, on TV adverts, on a whole series of things that are currently loopholes that aren't covered in the current advertising rules.
The answer to the question from Malcolm is, it's the government who actually defined what advertising to children is. It was done by Ofcom. It was done when television advertising was brought in. The same will apply to things that look like television but are on the internet. The same will apply in all the other traditional forms of advertising. So he's just not right, I'm afraid. It's misleading.
Jenny, you're a registered nutritionist, campaign manager with Action on Sugar. What is your view about this plan?
Really sad day for public health. They should have prioritised public health over anything else. It's completely inexcusable. To give industry another 5 years chance to make voluntary changes is a complete shambles. They've had that opportunity before. Yes, we have seen some change, but not enough that is going to tackle overweight and obesity. And clearly what's happened is someone in the new government has lent on the delete button of the draft plan, which
Perhaps
is already
even
weak.
the Prime Minister.
Perhaps she should be taking control of it. That's definitely what we'd be calling for now. She said she wanted to tackle health inequalities, and then we come out with this plan that is missing, or has just had removed, not just missing, but has been deleted, most of the evidence-based policies that need to be implemented.
Emily, there's, as part of this plan, an encouragement, didn't need to be in a plan, we could all do this anyway, an encouragement that our children should do an hour's exercise a day. Is that, I mean, it's obviously a good idea, but, you know, we sort of know that, don't we?
Yeah, and again, I think it's about investment, because obviously, you know, we talk a lot about how children aren't able to play in the street like they used to. You know, communities need, you know, good recreational spaces where children have the opportunity to exercise safely and freely, as well as the kind of organised exercise that they do at school. So, you know, I'd like to see, rather than that footnote about the app and exercise being kind of with the big sugar headlines, I'd kind of like to see that turned on its head. So it's much more about giving children the opportunity to eat healthy and the opportunity to run around, as children love to do.
I just want to bring in Julie. In terms of advertising, particularly on television, you've got your 3.5-year-old. How much of an issue is it for you?
I don't think it's an issue at all.
Okay.
I think
Why is that?
Because I think the biggest role model to children is their parents, and particularly the female in the home. And I think if children are seeing their parents eating well and exercising as part of a balanced lifestyle, they're more inclined to follow that than they are something on the television.
Malcolm, that's a really good point, isn't it?
Well, I think at the moment the current rules are about what can be advertised on TV to children. Set this kind of numerical criteria that I say was really hard to understand. I couldn't. You know,
No, but
tough
Julie's point was actually your kids will learn more from their parents than absorbing what's on telly. I mean, they will absorb what's on telly. Don't get me wrong. My kids can you know, mimic loads of adverts.
But I think what this is about getting the power and the control with parents rather than not. So, for instance, we all understand what a 9 p.m. watershed is and means. At the moment, we don't know what adverts might be seen by children watching Britain's Got Talent or X Factor. Well, we do. It will be a lot of high sugar, high fat food and drink. But at the same time, I say, what what we wanted to see in the strategy was how can the government give that helping hand
Okay.
to
Go on,
parents?
Julie.
I think it's I do agree.
Let Julie
But
speak.
I think we're missing a
parents
huge
there.
point of this discussion is why are people overeating sugary goods? And we're not talking about kind of the reasons that people kind of self-medicate. You know, when their lives are not going well, they might eat to feel
But
better.
you don't do that with kids, do you?
But children learn that from their parents. If
Yeah.
they're seeing their mum coming home after a difficult day at work and opening up a box of chocolates and a box of wine, then you know they learn that, and they learn about food being used as treats. You know, and yesterday I just spoke to the producer and I picked my daughter up from nursery, and it was somebody's birthday, and she come home with this big bag of sweets. So you know, we live in this culture where the food is there, and we're not having this conversation. We're talking about advertising.
Yeah, let's be fair to parents. Of course, it's their responsibility to make healthy choices and be healthy role models. But that is really difficult when there's this kind of situation going on, when there's lots of food and drink being heavily marketed, because the manufacturers know that that is going to increase their choice. And it's also important to recognise it's really disappointing that the health minister, our new health minister, has said in response to this.
Yeah.
so
Sorry,
Nicola
she's
Blackwood,
from the Treasury. Jane Ellison is the former health minister. I beg your pardon.
Yeah, so that she's come out and she said in response to this, you know, about inspiring new GB Olympians, and I just think that cannot be further removed from what we're trying to do in tackling child obesity.
Thank you very much. Thank you all of you. Thanks for coming on the programme.
I've been getting